It's fun. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Mountain Stream. My name's Adam, and I'm the guiding teacher here. And yeah, let's just go right into some meditation. So, taking some time to settle in. We'll sit for about 30 minutes. So, take some breaths. These nice long breaths, especially with the exhale, just indicates to the body that you're in a place where you can be still and soft and silent and relax. Allowing your awareness to just travel through the body, feeling any places of tension or tightness or openness or strength, whatever's here. We tend to operate during most of our day in the head, energy concentrated in the head. And so see if you can just bring the energy down consciously. It doesn't mean there can't be any energy in the head. We definitely want energy there. But drawing down, and traditionally the belly is where we like to center ourselves. Just this sense of arrival. And feeling into the earth element here. The earth beneath you in full support of this body. But then also the qualities of earth in this very body. So earth sitting on earth. One of the things that's nice to do is to settle the mind on an object. That could be the breath, that could be the body. It could be a sense experience like sound. Could be awareness itself. Whatever we choose, we stick with it. Becoming available to whatever is here, whatever arises. You notice the body contract or the energy getting pulled back up into the head. Just take a nice long breath and just return. Returning with kindness. This is wisdom arising every time you notice. the last part of this meditation, bringing a sense of kindness to this body, to this physical body, this mental body, this emotional body, our conditioning and psychology, our history. And maintaining this sense of kindness, this inner sense of kindness for yourself, if you have the capacity, perhaps allowing it to radiate outwards as well. To all beings, or the beings in this room, or someone in particular in your life, or a situation. Once again, feeling the ground, feeling the breath, this body. Those of you on Zoom, I'm ringing the bell now. Okay, so we'll take about a 5-minute break here. We'll be back at 6:42 Pacific time. And let's keep this room quiet and cool. I'm going to start off with a little chant, honoring of the Buddha. If you know it, you can chant along. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. I'll chant it 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang saranang gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So I've been kind of reflecting on what I was going to talk about today. I gave a title last week, but the content didn't come until yesterday and today. And it keeps changing. So it's a sort of like a choose your own adventure for me. So we'll see where it goes. But the general theme is about I wanted to reflect on the Rohitasa Sutta. Um, do any of you know the Rohitasa Sutta? All right. Some of you do. And it's really interesting because when I understood it in a particular way for so long, and then I've been reflecting on it like, in the past couple of days, and it's sort of taken me on a couple of uh, different directions that have deepened it for me. So I'm still in the stage of trying to understand it on a deeper level. So I was wanting to share a couple of those reflections for you or with you. And I often like to use the literature of early Buddhism. We call these the suttas or the Nikayas, which are the first-hand accounts of the Buddhist teaching. And I always, sometimes I get very overwhelmed when I'm reading them because I often reflect on um, how the teaching was transmitted. And so nothing was written down until a couple hundred years after the Buddha lived. And of course, in those couple hundred years, there were probably many versions created and different things as happens. But the suttas, if you go in there and look at the suttas, I mean, it's a collection of thousands and thousands and thousands of teachings, and they were all memorized, which I find really incredible to just think about how these teachings lived in people's bodies alone, and then were eventually written down, and then thousands of years have passed and passed and passed, and so many people have kept the teachings alive, and I just think that's really beautiful, just a really beautiful thing that people were that committed to writing them down. And the writing down process, I'm not going to go into it now because it would bore you, but the process for writing things down then was really arduous. And I think this mic's going in and out. Okay, yeah. A lot of patience and commitment. So the teachings typically take they take a particular form. And so there's usually somebody who approaches the Buddha and a discussion or um, an interchange happens. And sometimes he's teaching humans, but a lot of the times he's teaching devas or he's teaching uh, celestial beings. Uh, in Ajahn Mun's biography and his teachers that came later, it says that he had some deva disciples as well, and some celestial being disciples. The stories are really, really interesting to read. And as the Buddha goes through these conversations, it's kind of this Socratic method of asking questions and allowing the teaching to deepen within the person he's talking to, rather than sort of dictating to somebody like what they need to believe and why they should believe it. And one of the constant themes that's throughout is that all beings, in some way or another, are all seeking some type of liberation, some type of happiness. And we could think of Buddhism as essentially a path toward liberation. Mindfulness is kind of has sort of been extracted out of Buddhism and taught on its own. And there's a lot of benefits to that. I don't have to go into those now, but there's all kinds of accounts of mindfulness helping people's lives. But mindfulness was actually, seen in this context of this liberative teaching, because mindfulness alone isn't really enough. It can help a lot, but it's not really enough. The Buddha was most interested in happy. All beings want to be happy. Every single being in some way wants to be happy. And it can take these really distorted, strange forms sometimes. Don't want to suffer. Sorry, I'm gonna maybe put that. Okay, yeah. I think I was blocking the antenna by keeping it there. And we could say that this is the primary interest of all beings: safety, freedom from suffering. And we could call freedom from suffering happiness, because the way the Buddha talked about happiness was basically being free from any type of suffering or ill will or the hindrances. And so we can spend our entire lives or multiple lives attempting to find that freedom. And really, I mean, if you think about it, is there anything that you can think of that's outside of this pursuit? I mean, all of the greed, all of the wars, all of the pursuits of power, what's the underlying motivation for that? Protection, solidity, freedom, safety.
domination.
And this sutta, this Rohitassa Sutta, it offers a really interesting and I would say even fascinating kind of paradoxical teaching on the nature of our search for liberation. And so in this sutta, the Buddha shares the story of a celestial being named Rohitassa. And in Rohitassa, one of Rohitassa's past lives, they were this powerful yogi that sought the end of the world, not the end of the world, but the end to the world. So he was always trying to find where the world ended. And I'll get into that a little bit later. And he was deeply, deeply committed to this goal. And he waited countless eons trying and trying and trying to find the end of the world, thinking that if he could just reach the horizon, then there would be liberation there. But despite all of his efforts, he never reached it. And that's when he approaches the Buddha. So I'll read from the sutta here. It says, on one occasion, the Blessed One, as the Buddha, was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then, when the night had advanced, the young Deva, Rohitassa, of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jeta's Grove, approached the Buddha. He paid homage to the Buddha, stood to one side and said, is it possible, Bhante, Bhante just means teacher, by traveling to know, see, or reach the end of the world, where one is not born, does not grow old and die, does not pass away and get reborn? So basically he's saying where one can find freedom, can I travel there to this place where I can finally be released, where I can finally find freedom? Can I get to the end of this challenging life, this challenging world that I live in, and find freedom? Um, I was listening to this teacher, Brian Lesage, teach about this, and he was alluding to the Wizard of Oz and saying, is there somewhere over the rainbow where dreams really do come true? And that's basically the question that's being asked here. Is there a place that I can go where I will have more of a sense of freedom in my life? Maybe Nevada City just isn't working anymore, and I need to move to Truckee. It'll be so much better when I get there. It's uh, really funny because I lived in Cincinnati for so long. I just wanted to get out, wanted to get out. And we moved here. And then that part of me sometimes is like, I really miss Cincinnati. I want to go back there. It's like all these things. And then I get some perspective and then I don't want to do that. But that's a pattern that we all kind of have. Like, it would be so much better if I just moved back to Cincinnati. I wouldn't have all these problems. Or if you find that right relationship, I'll have a taste of freedom. Does it really work that way? I know the answer, it doesn't really work that way, but we have this belief that somehow it does work that way. Or if I get out of this relationship, is that where I'll find a new freedom? Or in a diet or an exercise plan, once I start that, everything will be okay. Or I get over that hump and the freedom will be there when I get healthier. I think this is what Rohitasa is asking. And it seems really esoteric the way it is in the suttas because it was 2,600 years ago that was written. But we all know that it doesn't really work that way. Can I find some place or some situation where I will experience real freedom? I feel confined in my life and I want to find a place where I'm free. And the Buddha's pretty blunt. He just says, no. Now, just a little caveat here. Um, Sometimes we do find a place or a community or a relationship that does offer the support that we need. So I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. Um, sometimes what we really need, the best thing we can do is to get out of a situation or to move to a different place. Having a healthy diet, exercising, those are good things. I'm not knocking that. These things support our lives and they make life much better. But if I think any of these things will be the ultimate answer, that's when I get in trouble. That's when the trouble happens. Because eventually you'll get disappointed and you'll end up suffering. And I love this sutta because I resonate with both what the Buddha says and what Rohitasa says. The question that Rohitasa is answering and the Buddha's answer. And so the Buddha doesn't just say no. He says, I say, friend, that by traveling, one cannot know, see, or reach that end of the world where one is born, does not grow old and die, does not pass away and get reborn. So the Buddha is starting to point to something that's much deeper, that's more stable, that's different, that's a deeper flavor of freedom that we can begin to taste if we begin to look in different ways. If we can relate to our lives or see life in a different way. And Rohitasa is so grateful for this bluntness because he starts to recollect his previous life. He remembers spending his whole life in this attempt to find the end of the world or the end to the world, trying to find freedom and trying and trying and trying and trying and it not happening. This is what he says. He says, in the past, Bhante, I was a seer named Rohitasa, son of Boja, one possessing psychic potency, able to travel through the sky. Some translations say I was a skywalker, which I like that, like Luke Skywalker. My speed was like that of a light arrow, easily shot by a firm-bowed archer, one trained, skillful, and experienced, across the shadow of a palmyra tree. My stride was such that I could reach from the eastern ocean to the western ocean. Then, while I possessed such speed and such stride, the wish arose in me, I will reach the end of the world by traveling. Having a lifespan of 100 years, living for 100 years, I traveled for 100 years without pausing, except to eat, drink, chew, taste, defecate, and urinate, and to dispel fatigue and sleep. Yet I died along the way without having reached the end of the world. So we can spend our whole lives, I can spend my whole life looking outward, trying to make my life perfect, trying to do all the right things, and it never works out. You die along the way of trying to create perfection. It is astounding and amazing, Bhante, how well this was stated by the Blessed One. I say, friend, that by traveling one cannot know, see, or reach that end of the world where one is not born, does not grow old and die, does not pass away and get reborn. And again, Rohitasa says, Bhante, how can one find the end of the world? The Buddha, with great compassion, replies, friend, it is not possible to reach the end of the world by walking. Yet, I say, without reaching the end of the world, there is no making an end of suffering. That's pretty confusing, right? Friend, it is not possible to reach the end of the world by walking. Yet, I say, without reaching the end of the world, there is no making an end of suffering. And so what is he talking about? What does this mean? And this is where it gets a little bit confusing. And I think we should clarify what the Buddha means by the word world. World. This is where the key lies for understanding this. So the Buddha is obviously talking about an inward journey. That's pretty easy to pick out. A world that is within this body or within this subjective experience. So these eyes, this mind, this conditioning. And so there's my world, or several worlds here, but worlds of subjectivity within this body right here. And so the world that I experience changes depending on what situation I'm in. I'll clarify that a little bit later. So the world that the Buddha is talking about is the world that confines me, the world that shackles me, the world that brings suffering. And so this is the world that the Buddha is pointing out. And, and also so interested in bringing to an end. So have you noticed the worlds that your mind creates? These worlds that give you a sense of confinement? Have you noticed how the mind again and again and again creates this world that binds us, takes us away from freedom? And as I said before, we might contain many worlds, like the world that confines me. When I used to go to my family's house, my family's kind of broken up now, so we don't really get together. But that world of my mother's house confined me in different ways than the world that I lived in at home when I was by myself or with my partner. Or the world I live in at work confines me in a different way than it does at at Mountain Stream or whatever. There's all these different confinements that we work within. Some are within our that we can change, some we cannot. But even more profound is the mental world that we create, the confinement. And so a world that I lived in for a while was I'm unlikable. And so when I would walk around, all the signs of that I was unlikable were everywhere. Yeah. That was my world. That was what came. It, and immediately when I started to shift that, the world shifted with it. You'd walk around, I would see it in everyone's eyes that I would meet, that I'm not going to belong here or be accepted. No one's going to like me. I mean, we've all had this probably. That's a world. That's a world I've created or has been conditioned for me. Or I'm not good enough, and I see that all around me, everywhere I look. I'm not good enough. And this is just a mental construct that we believe. This is a world that we live in. I'm deficient in this, I'm deficient in that, or I'm the best. That's a world too. It's all delusion. It's all delusion. And so the Buddha's pointing this out, this the end of the world can't be, you can't walk there. You can't travel there. And so this is something interesting to just be curious about throughout the day. What world am I living within? You can feel it. You can feel the walls come up and the barriers come up and the confinement start and all of these things. And you start to operate within this really restricted world. And so the Buddha was interested in ending all of that, ending all of that. And that's what freedom is, right? What if we didn't have the confines anymore, the mental confines, the mental constructs? What if we weren't bound by our own conditioning? That's what freedom is. This is the world of me, the world of mine, and it's something to reflect upon. And it wouldn't be so bad if we just did it to ourselves, but the result of solidifying and confirming over and over again a me is that as I do that, I'm creating a you as well, an other. And this manifests in so many different ways. And I confine others to a world, to their behaviors that they've shown me, or something I assume about them. And so they live in a world that I'm interpreting through my own world. So the laws that govern, the natural laws that govern the world that I'm seeing you through, I impose on the other person. And then I get upset when they violate those laws. And so it's interesting to reflect on this, how we limit others, or how I refuse to look at particular people's worlds. So I see people in the context of my own world. So what is it like to think about the world of a disabled person? What is their world like? It's much different than mine. They live by different rules than I do. Their view on the world is much different. People look at them differently. Or the life of a black woman in the South, where I grew up, or an immigrant, or a Palestinian, or an Israeli, or a politician that you don't agree with. They all live in these worlds. They're all confined by particular worlds. And what forms their world? What are the confines that they live under every single day? What's being put upon them? Who's forming their world? Are they even able or free to form their own world? This is a really interesting and transformative inquiry. How can we get to the end of these worlds that cause so much pain? One of the Pali terms that's used to describe the Buddha is loka vidu, which means knower of worlds. It's another term for enlightened or awake, knower of worlds. It takes on a whole new meaning when you think of the worlds that confine us. He knows his own worlds, perhaps, and then it said the Buddha constantly was scanning to see where the suffering was in other people. This is the practice. This is compassion. This is what we do. This is what we're doing. And so it's a simple teaching, but it's really, really profound, and it's very, very deep. You know, the misguided nature of our own pursuits for lasting happiness. We live in a constantly changing world, and to put up any solidity is just going to keep causing more suffering. Sorry, I'm editing as I go. So the Buddha was constantly pointing us back into ourselves. What is keeping me from being more fully compassionate? What's keeping me from being more fully awake? What am I doing in my life that's preventing me from waking up? Is there something I can do about that? And he's always pointing back to the wisdom that's inherent within our own hearts, the compassion, the love that's inherent within our own heart, always pointing back to us. He was very clear, do not believe me, try it on for yourself. Don't believe the teacher. Look at, especially if they're not pointing back to your own heart. Don't believe scripture. Don't put your faith in people's words. Test them against your own heart, your own experience. Really love this line from the Dhammapada. This is Kitasaro's translation. I'm going to read it in Pali first, though, because I like how it sounds. Akase padang nati samano nati bahire papancha virata paja ni papancha tathagata. Akase padang nati samano nati bahire sankara sasata nati buddhanang injitam. This is Kitasaro's translation. There are no footprints in the sky. You won't find the sage out there. The world, the world delights in conceptual proliferation, creating worlds. That's really what papancha means. Buddha's delight in the ending of that, Nipapancha. There are no footprints in the sky. You won't find the sage out there. Are no eternal conditioned things. Buddhas never waver. Read that again. There are no footprints in the sky. You won't find the sage out there. The world delights in conceptual proliferation. Buddhas delight in the ending of that, in the ending of the world. There are no footprints in the sky. You won't find the sage out there. There are no eternal conditioned things. Buddhas never waver. Ajahn Chah, you keep looking outward, but the real escape from suffering is here within you. The more you chase after things, the more you suffer. And so we see this all over the world, this constant pursuit, as I've talked about, to find happiness. We've looked outward, we've tried, we've run to the ends of the earth for 100 years, achieved things, hoping they would fulfill us, only to feel more restless and more empty. And so we find ourselves running in circles, desperately trying to grasp samsara, circle of suffering, the cycle of suffering. This is Rumi. Uh, you wander from room to room, hunting for the diamond necklace that is already around your neck. Um, and so this necklace represents the truth, the peace, the awakening that's inherent within each of us. And we often remain unaware of it. I do this all the time with my glasses. They're on my head and I'm looking around. Like, Lakshmi, what'd you do with my glasses? They're on your head. Yeah. And so what we seek is always here. It's always here. It's always now. Nibana is here. It's now. It's always here. This is a big teaching of uh, Buddhadasa. He's a Southern Thai forest teacher. He's a really interesting guy, but he wrote this pamphlet called Nibana for Everyone. And his whole point was that Nibana is right here, right now. We experience all the time, but we're just kind of ignorant of it. And so Nibbana, that we have small Nibbanas all the time. And then, as we become more aware and we start to break down the walls, and the Nibbana starts to extend and extend. The unconditioned begins to extend and extend, and then we begin to contextualize or see life through this lens of the unconditioned. And so I mentioned samsara, and this is at the root, or at the very center of what Rohitassa is talking about, this endless cycle of samsara, this cycle of birth, this cycle of aging, sickness, of death. And we can feel this, this dukkha. It's always there. It's inherent. This is part of our conditioning of this, especially in a capitalist society, to constantly pursue and constantly consume. And we keep going and we keep going, trying. And because things are impermanent, we're always going to suffer if we're seeking permanence. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to skip this whole section. All right, here we go. Um, so, the true path, turning inward. So, where does the path truly lie? I've already talked about that. The sage isn't out there, the sage isn't here. So the path to liberation of Buddha is very clear, is found not by moving away from the world, but by turning inward. And that search for freedom, search for peace, again, we all know this, it's not a physical journey. It's a journey of the heart and the mind. The world is filled with people making the physical journey. We see it every day. Um, Throughout the suttas, the Dhamma, there's the Dhamma is described in all these different ways, and one of the words that's used is opanayiko. And so opanayiko means that the Dhamma, the true Dhamma, it leads inward to the source with a big S, to the source, where we're all connected, where we're all we enter our. It leads towards emptiness, which means that we're all connected. And if it's not leading you inward, if it's leading you outward, then it's not the true Dhamma. That's the test. That's the test right there. And so the Buddha says to Rohitassa, I say, friend, that by traveling, one cannot know, see, or reach that end of the world where one is not born, does not grow old and die, does not pass away and get reborn. Yet I say that without having reached the end of the world, there is no making an end of suffering. It is in this fathom-long body, endowed with perception and mind, that I proclaim the world, the origin of the world, the cessation of the world, and the way leading to the cessation of the world. It's all right here within this fathom-long body. Profound. This is a beautiful teaching. It's empowering to know that. As a teacher, not telling us it's out here in my teaching, and it's out here. You have to kind of do what I tell you to do. He said, no, it's here within your own fathom-long body. Here is the world. Here are the worlds. There are the ending of those worlds, the origin of the worlds, the cessation of the world, the way leading to the cessation of the world. And so the end of suffering is within this fathom-long body. It's nowhere else. In this very body and mind that we inhabit, that's the key to liberation. It's Ajahn Mun again, that guy. It's a quote from him. The heart, when trained, knows no limitations. The true path is neither east nor west. It is in seeing clearly here and now, eternity. It's good news, huh? If Kittasar was here, he'd scream hallelujah really loud. But it's this constant pointing inward, and to just know that power is within us is just so profound. Our connection to the eternal, a connection to the Dhamma is the only person that cuts us off from it is ourselves. Thich Nhat Hanh, the miracle is not to walk on water, the miracle is to walk on the green earth in the present moment. Let's wrap up here. And so as we reflect on Rohitassa, we can ask ourselves, where are we still seeking fulfillment in places where it cannot be found? Where are we still chasing after something that seems just out of reach, believing that happiness lies somewhere other than here, right now? As we pause here for a moment, remembering that the true path is not a destination, but it's an ongoing process of awakening. Every breath is an opportunity to let go of the search, to simply be with what is. And in this very moment, you're entirely free. And when we know that, the walls that are preventing it become really obvious. Thank you for your attention. And I think we have time for a couple questions or reflections or corrections or insights. If anybody has anything they'd like to share.
Hi, everybody. This is Jen from the Meditation Hall, and we've got a first question here.
Hello, this is Ernest. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Ernest.
When you were talking about our search, we're not going to find anything out there. It's all inside. It reminded me of a quote from C.G. Jung. Those who look outside dream. Those who look inside awaken.
I like that.
Thank you for your teachings tonight,
Yeah.
Adam.
Thank you, Ernest. Appreciate you and all that you do for us.
Passing the mic in the hall again. And if anybody on Zoom wants to raise their hand, please do.
My name's Yadviga, and I just want a clarification on the teachings. The Buddha is saying that we all create a world that causes suffering and we feel confined and all of that. But how do we get, or are there individuals who have gotten to the point where they have created worlds where they feel liberated and happy?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're getting to. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're moving from unskillfulness towards skillfulness, from unawakening towards awakening, and so we have this framework of the Buddhist teachings that help us move in that direction. And so, as long as we are in a conditioned world, we're gonna be conditioned. And so the Buddha encouraged us to create a conditioning that actually is a cause for awakening rather than more suffering.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is because I feel like the world right here that I've created, being here, I feel pretty good. I mean, I feel happy, and I mean, I don't feel confined just by being here at the center. So, am I missing something?
Do you suffer ever? Do you ever suffer?
Well, I think yeah, of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you just talking about in this moment you don't feel the suffering?
Yeah, I feel pretty good here.
Well, that's great. May it continue. But what if you were, you are backing out of the parking lot and somebody backs into you? What would happen then? Would you feel perfect? Would it be completely okay?
Well, I just got a new car a couple of days. My car. I really wouldn't care, but
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good. I mean, as it's we gradually awaken a little bit at a time. We might have these big openings, but then we have to go back and support it in some way. But I think the practice naturally. I mean, the most awakened people I've ever come across, they still talk about they suffer. I mean, Dogo Kensei talked about the thoughts that move through his head. He doesn't always, like, and they cause suffering in his life. So, and he was considered one of the most awake people of the 20th century. So, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I knew people that traveled with him, and Thich Nhat Hanh, he got frustrated every once in a while through all of his travel.
yeah.
He suffered, so it's nobody's ever going to be completely 100% benign. The Buddha had back problems and talked about them and said that, he was suffering and had people give his talks for him because his back was suffering. So, you know, there are conditions that are going to be there. The question is are we creating more suffering than there actually needs to be? And then that all depends on the context through which we view it. And yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's I it's tough to speak through others' experience, and so I haven't experienced uh, enlightenment, so I can't really speak to it. But what I can say is that I have experienced moments of awakening, and in those moments, it feels very boundless, and it's a glimpse of what it feels like to not have suffering. And if you glimpse that, that's great.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. All right, it's 29 now, so I wanna just close out here, and I'm happy to keep talking if you all want to stay. So let's just pause here for a moment. May we all become more familiar with the worlds that confine us so that we can become more free. The worlds we build to protect us and to attempt to solidify life, may we see the suffering that can cause. May we not confine others to a world of our making, but may we seek to understand how those worlds were created. May we have boundless compassion, and may our heart grow and expand so that we may realize infinite compassion, the unity of all beings. Bhavatu Sabamangalam Rakantu Sava Devata Sava Buddha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te. May there be every blessing. May all divine beings protect you. By the power of all Buddhas, may you always be well.